Welcome back, guys. In today's video I'm going to be talking about land, specifically land in Jamaica. I'm going to spend about 10 minutes talking about that. See, in Jamaica, land is more than soil. See, it's a story. Some view it as a struggle even, and it's security. So when you own your own land, you don't just stand on it, you stand for something. On another note, God gave Adam a garden, not a flat, right? I'm not going biblical here, but they're not making any more land. But we're still making more families. We're still expanding. So ownership is a duty. I just want to share a few golden nuggets early in this. Real estate isn't just real. It definitely is legacy. And land is the only investment your grandchildren will thank you for without explanation. In Jamaica, when you own land, you stop asking for permission, you start giving it. And real wealth doesn't end with you, it begins with you. Really, really important points to remember. You see, my granddad was Mr. Isaacs, no longer with us. I remember from a really early age, and he grew up in Spanish Town, right? He's part of the Windrush generation, worked really hard and done pretty well for himself in life. And he always said to me, Dean, be careful you don't get into the trap of renting. Become a landlord. And I replied to him, say, but granddad, put more deposit down on the house nowadays, it's expensive. You have to save quite a bit. And you always reply, well, take your time, save a bit at a time. And you know what I admired about that generation in particular? Because when they worked really hard, they made it over to the UK. They used to do things like partnering, and through working together through collaboration, they were able to get ahead in life, to succeed and go forward, to buy properties that me and you would look at today and think, wow, we're talking 3-4 story properties in the UK, and some of them had multiple properties in areas like Stoke Newington, Brixton, areas that were traditionally black areas. When you walk certain lands in Jamaica, you feel the spirit of the people built within the blueprint, who raised families off what little they had, because they believed something better was coming. The same belief must live in us today. So, I'm going to answer a few questions. Why is land in Jamaica so important? Well, they're not making any more of it, for one. And while we're waiting, enjoying ourselves or not, working hard, just living life and going through the motions, investors are coming in left, right and centre. And they're buying up massive portions of land in Jamaica. I'm not saying that's inherently a bad thing. It's good. Jamaica needs development. But so do its people need to invest as well. It's crucially important. It's very important. You see, Jamaica has a rich history, as you know. Colonization, sugar estates, landlessness, all shaped our current opportunities. And why do foreigners see the value in our land that we sometimes overlook? So what does real estate teach us about growth, patience and faith? Well, investing in real estate is not something you can do just like that. It requires patience, diligence. It requires a mindset that can cultivate goals orientated to saving, to putting away, sacrificing as well. You have to sacrifice to get things sometimes, especially when you don't have much. And you have to have faith as well. All of those things tied together. You see, owning land is like planting a tree, you know. It might start off really small like a seed. It might be in a remote area in the countryside, but it's better to own something than nothing. And land in Jamaica really goes the other way. It always seems to appreciate. That's been the trend for the last decade. It's been the trend for decades and decades now. And can you really build something from nothing? Yes, you can. So how do you start when you have nothing? And what's one small move someone with low income can make this year? Well, one thing's for start. Most of us bawl about not having money. I wouldn't say most of us, a lot of us. But the truth be told is that, you know, for some people when Carnival comes along, they manage to get their uniform, they manage to get prepared, they manage to buy liquor, whatever it is, they manage to get that plane ticket sometimes, and they're visiting a place or going to a place to go to that carnival or party or event that they've so longed to go to. Land is no different, it requires the same diligence. If you really want something, you have to work towards it. You have to plan towards it, and it does require sacrifice. So you can start from nothing. You know, I'll give you a little story. One of my first investments in property was, dare to say, off credit. Literally a credit card. That's what I used. A couple of credit cards for the deposit. Never touched my own money at all. And while today you need a bigger deposit, there are certain principles in that. And you can do this together. You know, I'll give you another story. There was a group of a family. Agents tend to work together really well when it comes to property investment. And I heard about this group back in the UK. There was about 50 of them, maybe even more. And what they did was, they all committed to putting in fact it was a lot more than 50, it was over 100. They all committed to putting in £1,000 each month into a kitty. And I kid you not, each month they were going around and buying houses cash. Each month they were buying a house cash and giving to somebody within that group. And they never stopped until everybody had one. What does that mean? When you get a mortgage, you're paying, at least 3 times the price for that house. You're paying for it and you're paying for it again and again. So you're paying for the house 3 times, right? What did they do? They cut out that middleman, so to speak, and they paid less. What did it require? Absolute commitment, trust. Because, you know, just because you got yours, it doesn't mean you can stop. But why would you stop? Because that 1,000 a month, you can look at that as your mortgage, and that will be a lot less than what the bank will be charging you in some cases. So you just keep on paying that until everybody's got what they've got, a house, basically. But that was a really good scheme. I'm not saying that you should do that, but I'm just giving you some ideas about what other groups, larger groups, have done and been successful with. And this is going way back as well. This isn't even like yesterday. We're talking years ago, before COVID. I was hearing these stories. So those are some of the clever ways to invest in land and property, you know. And the older generation, the Winworth generation, I know that they were famous for buying bigger properties. My granddad always hated small properties. He always thought of them as factories anyway in the UK, because a lot of them were in rows. They call them terrace houses, or in rows together. They looked like factories back then. Looked like factories to me, actually, as a little kid. When I came back to Jamaica, so-called third world country, I saw these grand houses everywhere, you know, detached houses. Went back to England, saw rows of 50 houses together with little chimneys, with smoke coming out. It's almost like a factory, you know. So anyway, I diverted there. What I was trying to say is when they invested, when that generation invested, it was 2, 3, 4-story properties in like Brixton, Stoke Newington, as I mentioned, those type of areas, Islington, which is like Zone 1 in London, Uptown, really cosmopolitan, expensive area, and I don't think some of that generation lived a day in their lives without people renting from them. You see, they'll move into one of these 3 to 4-story properties and divide it up into a couple of flats, not immediately, but over time. But they had people living with them immediately, at least 3, 4 families coming in from Jamaica and families rotating as they came in. So not only were they helping themselves, they were helping the wider community, they were helping Jamaica. They were investing in the family, leaving something behind for future generations. That is key. That's a kingdom principle. That's a biblical principle as well as a responsibility for parents. Not leaving your kids anything means leaving them pure debt, really, because they're going to have to get into debt just to get something. That's worth pointing out. We have a responsibility to make things easier for them, yes, so they can build on what we've left and take it one more step forward. That's our responsibility. What's stopping us from pooling funds like we used to back in the day with Partner? People pool funds for parties and all of that. What's stopping us from doing that? We should leave something behind for our children. Absolutely. That's one of the other questions. If we don't leave land, what will we leave our children to inherit? How will owning land break generational dependency? Well, it will. Just owning land, just passing it down to your children instead of them going on and living a life of debt and renting from different individuals. I mean, do we want our children to fight over rent or live on inheritance? Which one? So embedded in these principles are a good man leaves an inheritance to his children. And that's a proverb. That's Proverbs 13:22. Build your house on solid ground. Real estate is more than shelter. It's a foundation. When storms come, both literally and figuratively, land is what stands firm. The concept of stewardship. You don't own the land forever, but you're responsible for it while you're here. And that holds true for all of us. Ownership isn't about ego, it's about responsibility. So, clever ways to start from zero. Buy raw land. Why not? Build later. Even bushland can be bush now and a bungalow later on, right? Sweet equity. Build your own house gradually, like many returnees do. Don't need a 16-bedroom mansion. You can build moderately, something that you can maintain. Use your skills. Use your cousin. Use your friend who's a roofer. You can do the tiling. You can put in the kitchens and the bathrooms. Barter and collaborate. Maybe 5 friends, put in 5,000 each, buy a 25,000 lot. And then, if that's an acre, you divide that later on. So, in wrapping up, the Maroons fought for land. Nanny didn't die for selfies, and I'm a descendant directly. She died for sovereignty. Every inch of land in Jamaica has a story. What will your story be? You may not come from land, but land can come from you. You are the seed of your future, your family's future, should I say. You are the first step. The houses we build today become the heritage of tomorrow. If we don't act now, we'll rent our past and lease our legacy. So, I say this, if you're serious about your future, don't just invest in things that go down in value. Invest in what can rise up. Invest in land, invest in your children, and invest in Jamaica.